Pantry, and today, as you see in the title, I am canning pizza sauce. And this is coming out of the Complete Book of Home Preserving. It is on page 366. So I'm having to adjust things a little bit because I don't have, they called for tomato puree and I could not find any. So I got crushed tomatoes. I'll make my own puree. I am adding fresh garlic instead of garlic powder. I've got salt, pepper, dried oregano, lemon juice, and the tomato. Fresh plum tomato puree. I don't have fresh plum tomato. Anyway, it's okay. We're going to do it this way. I couldn't find any puree. But needless to say, we are going to have an absolutely wonderful pizza sauce. I'm going to add a couple of extra things to it. I like fennel seed. I love it in Italian sausage, but I love it on pizza no matter what. Whether there's sausage on there or not, I always put it in my pizza sauce. So I'm adding that. I am going to add Italian oregano, Italian seasoning. It only calls for oregano, but I am going for the Italian seasoning, and fresh black pepper and salt, lemon juice, yada yada. Okay, so we are good to go. I am excited. Let me grab a measuring spoon. I'm not sure what size I need, so let's just grab the good ones over here. These little floppers. Teaspoons, looks like teaspoons. Yeah, so I'll use the teaspoon. All right, come on in and I'll show you how easy it is. Now it says that it makes about 4 pints. This recipe, I pulled out half-pint jars because I know if I use a half a pint of pizza sauce, that's plenty. Even if I just do my low-carb tortillas, a couple of those pizzas, I can go through the jar in time. But if I do a full pint of pizza sauce, I would end up wasting. So I'm not going to waste anything, but I want to get this on my shelf. Stuff is becoming harder and harder to find. And today I couldn't find pepperoni, let alone pizza sauce. So who would have thought there was a pizza sauce shortage? Okay, there's no shortage at my house. Okay, I'm going to get you in close and we'll start the recipe. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. I've done this recipe years ago, and actually I bought 1 can of tomato sauce. I didn't realize it was tomato sauce. So we may have to cook this down a little bit. Whoops, a little bit, but maybe not. Because you do have to kind of cook it down and reduce it so you get the consistency of a commercial sauce. That's what it says in the directions. So we're going to go ahead and pour all my tomato puree in there. And it says to boil it hard, but I am not about to get this stuff splattered all over me and the kitchen, right? So those can go in the recycling. And then I'm going to add a couple other things because I have them. And oh yeah, this is going to be nice. Already I'm feeling the love. So I'm going to add a can of diced tomatoes because it's calling for 13 cups. And then this is a tomato base that I used the other night, and it's tomato paste with herbs and all the same things that we're going to have in this, so that's going to help too. I'm actually going to take the immersion blender to this after it cooks down. So let's get that to the sink and we'll get moving on this stuff. All right, so I got my pot. This is a 5-quart stock pot, and I'm going to get my garlic in, and I did about 5 cloves of garlic. I like garlicky pizza sauce. I mean, who doesn't? But we'll get that in there. Fresh garlic. I think fresh is better. So So if you hear, I've got my Roomba going in the background. She decided to come back on. So we need a teaspoon of pepper and a teaspoon of salt. I've got Himalayan pink salt. We'll do that. And then I'm gonna do a teaspoon of fennel. A heaping teaspoon of fennel seed. And it'll cook down and it just absolutely comes out phenomenal. So there we go. Let's get this oregano open. Open, open, open. Okay. We want oregano. Calling for a teaspoon, a heaping teaspoon. I think for that much sauce, it's going to require, I'm going to taste this for seasoning as well at the end, because it may require more. Same equal amount of Italian seasoning. And that's how I make my homemade pizza sauce, as far as doing it, you know, one little batch at a time, which it's not hard, it's just nice to have it on the shelf already prepared. So if you want to do pizza on the fly, you can. A half a cup of bottled lemon juice. Got something here. And you want bottled lemon juice because you need that acidic value to be correct. It needs to be 5% acidic. All right, I'm going to get this over to the stove. Bring it up to a simmer and simmer this for 15-20 minutes, maybe even a half hour before we wazz it up and put it into our jars. I've got my jars sterilizing. They've actually already sterilized. When you're water bath canning, you want to sterilize. So I actually sterilized the jars. They've been washed with hot soapy water, but I went ahead and boiled them for 20 minutes. It really only takes 10, but hey, they're going to be extra clean. Okay, so I have my hot jars out. My sauce is done. And let me just tell you, it splatters a big mess. Anyways, you want your sauce hot, the jar's hot and sterilized, and reduce it down to the consistency that you want. This is a great piece of pizza sauce consistency. I will tell you, I put a tablespoon of sugar in here. The acidic value was really high with the lemon juice and the tomato. You want a ½ inch of headspace to these. So if you're not sure, get your measuring tool out. And that is a half right there. I can put a little bit more in there. Not much, but a little. So this is probably enough for 2 pizzas, depending on what kind of pizza you're doing. So I have my paper toweling that I used for something else, I guess. I'm just going to dip it in the hot water. Now, hot water. These are going to water bath can because they're pints, a pint or ½ pints. The pint jars call for 35 minutes. I'm going to do these for 25. So these are all Tatler lids. I mark the rubber gasket with a Sharpie mark before every canning session, so I know that how many times it's been used. And then I'm going to get my rings on. And, whew, these jars are hot. Finger tight, back them down just a little bit so it can vent in the canner. And I'll put this in the canner. Look how beautiful that pizza sauce is. And I'll make labels for the jars so I know what it is, even though I probably would know. It's just, you want to label a date just in case they get lost in the shuffle. Does that make sense? So I usually keep 3 jars out at a time. That way I'm good to go. Now, if you were using fresh tomatoes, you'd want to put these through the food mill and get all the skins out. You don't want any skins in there. Just a little tad more to make that ½ inch of headspace. I've got room in my stock pot, and that's what I'm water bathing in. to do 7 half pints. If there's some left, I'll do the rest with the second batch. Okay, this lid, like the first one, has been used. This will be the second run with it. And Tattlers do really good under a water bath. So tighten it, back off just a smidge. We'll tighten them when they come out of the canner. All right. And I put in the bottom of my pan, I have the egg. It's to put in your Instant Pot to hold eggs, to hard boil or hard steam eggs. I use it to soft and hard boil eggs on top of the stove, and I also used it to line the bottom, and I can still get 1 inch of water to 2 inches of water over my jars, but having a buffer between the bottom of the pot and the glass jar. Does that make sense? You want to make sure you have that buffer. I don't really feel like there's a need to debubble. This is pretty liquid. But if you want to debubble, you feel free. Just get in there with your debubbler. But like I said, I don't feel the need. So I'm not going to. All right. 1/2 inch of headspace. Wipe the rim. Get you a lid. And ring, a lid and gasket. Center it on there. And these lids are hot, hot, hot. You want them hot. It softens that gasket up really nicely. And there you go. In the canner she goes. And I'll let you know. So I did simmer this down a good 1/2 hour and let it reduce by almost 1/2 inch. Okay, so I have 7 half pints in the canner, and that's just a stock pot with a barrier on the bottom, so the jars are not directly over the hot pan over the burner. Keep your jars from breaking and being tousled around. I have 1 jar I'm going to let cool for the refrigerator because I love having just little pizzas made on the low-carb tortilla. They're delicious. It's like an Italian quesadilla, if you will. I probably have enough in here to do 3 more half pints, I would say. So that was a big recipe, bigger than you'd think. You know, by the ball says 4 pints, but there's no way. Anyway, so those are going to go for 25 minutes. You want the heat to hit the center of the jar for the correct amount of time, and that's why for pints it was 35 minutes. And we'll be back when it's done. And let me just tell you, it's delicious. It's very good. I'm excited to have this. When you open the jar, if you want a little more Italian seasoning, you can certainly add that, but you certainly do not need it. Okay. I will wait till the water comes up to a full rolling boil before I start my timer. And then you just keep it at a boil. Not as hard as it can go, but a boil. So I'm using all Tattler lids in the canner, and I've got 3 more just button top lids because I may actually share this with a couple people. Okay guys, so my water bath went for 25 minutes, and now it's time to take the jars out. And they're in here kind of tight, so the first jar is going to be a little bit, well, maybe I can get this one out. Get one of these guys out, right? All right, I am going to need some help on the first one. There we go. So, very good. And these are going to have to be tightened down. So get yourself a nice cloth and you tighten it down as tight as you can get it. Okay, and then that should suction down the Tattler. All right, beautiful. So 7 pints of pizza sauce, and I have enough for 3 more pints and 1 in the fridge. So I'll be doing a second run here in a minute, and we'll get this on the shelf. And this is probably enough to last me a year, maybe 2. But definitely a year's worth of pizza sauce. All right. Guys, I hope it inspires you to make your own sauces, your own condiments, and put them on the shelf. And know that you can recan already canned products, like those tomatoes. There's no reason not to recan stuff like that. And look at these jars over here. Oh, they're hot, hot, hot. All right. Beautiful. Okay, and I will try to come back and let you know if these jars all sealed. And if they did, we'll have a success. They look like they're sucking down already. So, tattlers, you know, you don't hear a ping or anything. And I don't, the tomato does expand in there, so you got to be careful. I can see it expanded. Like that one is touching the lid in a couple spots. And just dab any water, excess water off of the top of that jar. And we're going to let these set. So I will let these set, and before bedtime I will come and test my lids, which means I'm going to take off the rims or the rings, and I'm going to lift it by the tattler. Any of them that did not process and seal down, I can reprocess, and I may or may not use a tattler. If that happens, I might go ahead and use a button top lid and or get enough out that I can actually freeze it. You've got plenty of options, or to use it right away, but I already have some in there to use right away. So anyway, the last few that I'm going to do are going to be with button top lids, so I can give them away. All right, guys, I hope it inspires you. I hope that this is something that you get to make and put on your shelf. If you've already done this, leave me a comment down below and let me know. And if you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel for this kind of content, and know that the channel is about being prepared for whatever comes our way. And right now, things are pretty iffy on what could be happening as far as food shortages and just in general not having what we may need. Like today, I could not find pepperoni or pizza sauce in the store at all. So even though I already had the pizza sauce planned, it was kind of interesting that that was the case. So all right, we'll see you next time. Quite possibly using some home canned